light and shade, making a roller blind. This is a straight bottom roller blind, so nothing embellished on the bottom. Okay, so we need to anchor the fabric under the guillotine to get a nice, hopefully, clean drop. That's going to give us our drop, so we can dispense with the rest of the fabric, and then we're going to turn it to cut width in both sides. So although the fabric comes to me looking square, we'll never assume that it is. We're always going to take both sides off it to make sure that it's completely square with the guillotine. Making sure it's flat. Everything's lined up. That's the first side. Downside of roller blinds from a manufacturing point of view is wastage. This time, instead of just cutting, we're lining up the width of the blind along the tape measures which run down the table. Which in this case is 60 1/4. Two tape measures so we get everything square. It's held down by the guillotine. Movement. And that's the piece of fabric we need for blind. Okay. We need to prep the tube that we're going to make it onto, which has been cut by machine, but it leaves the ends a little ragged, so we need to ream all of that out so that when the ends go in, it's going to be nice and clean, the ends will go in easily, and everything will fit where it's supposed to. Okay. All gets supported inside the jig. And you turn the fabric to roll it onto the tube. For this part we are still going to hold it in place with the guillotine. Its other job is to hold everything in place while we put the fabric in. This is the creasing tool, which greases fabric into the hole, the slot that runs along the tube. We need to lubricate that because it's fabric. This is a silicone spray, so it won't damage the fabric, won't leave any marks on it, that will come off. But it makes putting the locking tape into position that bit easier. You can see how much easier that slides with the silicone spray. Locking tool, which houses the tape. It's interesting. Sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's not. What it does do is make it nice and tight so that it's not going to come out, of course, because what we don't want to do is for it to come apart when it's being used 100 times up and down the window. Gives your muscles where you didn't think you had them. Easiest job. Take the locking tape off. We need 3 sets. One which will go into the headrail, the roller tube at the top. The others which will go into the base rail at the bottom. So into the slot, locking tape hooked on. Oh, for the love of God, get in.
We got it in.
You will go in, it kills me.
We've got a nice clean sweep up until that point. So we're going to do that last bit.
Fine. It's fine, absolutely fine.
Okay, leave it in, I'm not bothered. Just goes to show they're not that easy to make, are they? Okay, trimming off all the excess fabric because that will alter the way the roller blind rolls if we leave it on. It will simply be in the way. And trimming off the end of the locking tape also will be in the way if we leave it. Okay. We are reverse rolled, which means reverse rolled means the fabric is coming off the front of the roller blind rather than off the back. So if you can imagine your roller blind at the window, when the roller blind fabric comes off the back, you can see the roller. When the fabric comes off the front, you can no longer see the roller. All you see is the fabric. The main reason for doing that would be if you have window handles that are going to be in the way, but you want the blind as close to the window as you can get it. If you have light issues. Or if you just aesthetically don't want to see the roller blind tube. Some people can be fussy like that, they don't want to actually see what's going on behind the blind. Okay, bottom bar, in this case is plastic bottom bar, which we're simply going to wrap fabric around. So it goes into the same part of the jig, and again we line it up with the edge of the table so we're nice and square. This blind is unusual because it's wider than it is deep, so it doesn't look very long in terms of where it's going on the window, and it's simply a very wide blind and a very shallow drop. And from our previous mistakes, I'll lubricate first. So again, just pressing the fabric into the crease. This is a no-sew method. There are some ways of putting the bottom bar in where you simply stick a slot into the bottom of the fabric, which then you would put a plastic bar into. The downside of that being that it can slip out. You don't always want to cut. This way it stays where it's put, it's going nowhere. It's not a bit of fabric. It's good enough. So locking tape. Which again, the excess gets chopped off. I'll show you that hanging at the bottom of the blind. That will be held in position now. Trim the ends of the locking tape. And then one more turn we'll see the blind fabric finished as being made into a roller. We're not going to press it down with the guillotine this time because we need the fabric to move very slightly so that I can wrap it tightly around the bottom bar. So rather than, if it's fixed in place, it will only go, there'll be no movement for me to force it where it's going to go. So in this case I'm simply going to press down with my fingers and pull the fabric into place so it's wrapping tightly around the bottom bar. Silicone spray, straight through with nothing to it. You can see how the fabric's moving as I'm just pulling it in tighter. But once it's in, it's dead easy. Okay, last piece of locking tape. So all the locking tape does is stop the fabric from popping back out of the crease I've made. A nice neat finish on there. That's going to get rolled. The guillotine at that end, please. Thank you very much. So we're now currently looking at the back of the blind because we're reverse rolling it. It doesn't matter whether it's reverse or normal roll, it will get rolled regardless. You can tell it's the back because we've got a bare bar at that side. So I'm rolling towards the back of the blind. Everything's cut square so it should all roll up very neatly. It does. Okay. Okay. So to finish it off, in terms of fabric, we're just going to roll it around there and then fix it with some masking tape. Okay, to finish this blind then we need to control it and put the ends into it to make it stay in the window. Control end in this case is left hand reverse. there's a connector in the chain. If it's reverse, the chain has to come off, the connector has to come off the front of the blind, front of the control. And in this case, because it's left hand, we need to make sure that it's going in the right direction so that when we come to operate it, it's going to go in the right direction. So, left hand control and coming off the front in that direction. So left hand reverse. Tying it up and out of the way so it's not going to damage the blind when it's wrapped. Packed. As I'm kind of looking at the front of it, that's going to slot straight into the left hand side. Lining the slot so that nothing moves when it's in the blind. The opposite end is a plunger, which gives us our tolerance for fitting. Blank ends to the bottom bar. Everything nice and finished off. 2 buckets, nice blind.